Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for Week 6 of the 2025 fantasy football season. For over the course of the next 2 hours, we're talking all things fantasy football related, whether it is starter set questions, trade questions, potentially waiver wire pickup questions, whatever it ends up being. If you guys do send in a question, whether it is via the live chat and or the super chat, make sure you include all the priority information, scoring format, how many teams are in your league, what your current win-loss record is. The more that, context you provide, the easier it'll be to potentially answer said questions. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Saturday as we approach week 6. Do not forget there is a very early Sunday morning game tomorrow in London between the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. Do not forget that is the case. I will be live streaming here tomorrow morning as early as 6 a.m. That's the third weekend in a row in which we're going to have a 4-hour live stream. So if you guys have any questions tomorrow morning, again, I'll have my most updated rankings on screen over the course of that time. Now, again, if you're busy tomorrow morning and you want to get those rankings sent from my email directly to yours, like I've mentioned, again, you can guys go ahead and check out Betr, signing up today, completing the 3-step process of making that first-time deposit, making that first-time play, and using code Andrew. Once you've accomplished all of that, you'll get those emails sent to you every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season, half PPR, full PPR, flex, etc. Okay. Now, going into this weekend, like I do every single Saturday, I wanted to go ahead and just kind of give you guys an update as to some of the potential changes that we have seen in terms of injuries that could potentially impact this upcoming weekend. Now, we know that on Monday there are 2 games. If I'm not mistaken, the Washington Commanders take on the Chicago Bears, and of course, the Buffalo Bills take on the Atlanta Falcons. We do know that Darnell Mooney is not going to play in that game. So for those of you who have Mooney or potentially he's on the waivers, the hamstring injury that we thought there was a potential which he could return this week off of the bye, that is not going to be the case. Other injuries of note, of course, a lot of Baltimore Ravens defenders are going to be out. Additionally, a lot of Detroit Lions defenders going to be out this week. It seems like Vegas really, truly did already know that the Lions were going to be without many of their starters, and that's why early in the week, starting Tuesday, the Chiefs were already favorites at home going into this potential shootout. So should be an exciting one. Hopefully the Lions defense not playing too great. So of course it forces a shootout of sorts for fantasy purposes. The last couple weeks have been, relatively strong in terms of upside of points. Any other potential notable injuries? Obviously we know there's a couple offensive linemen here and there, nothing too big deal. Joe Alt and Trey Pipkins, if we're talking about offensive line significant injuries, that's the starting left and right tackle of the Chargers. They're both going to be out this weekend against the Miami Dolphins. Not the greatest overall look. In terms of other, notable fantasy options, Brock Bowers is out. We know, of course, Calvin Austin is out, Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, Chris Godwin, which was a surprise as the week progressed on. Joey Sly, again, if you have a kicker, figure that out. Again, there are many of options available. Either way, we'll continue to go over, potential options in regards to injuries, but let's get into answering questions, shall we? Like I typically like to do as a late, I want to throw the questions on screen so that you guys are aware as to which questions I'm specifically answering. So we're going to begin with Santana's question here. Never mind. We're going to start with Ocho, was the first question that was sent in. Ocho, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. Ocho says in a half PPR, I need 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. We have Dobbs, we have Golden, we have Chase Brown, we have Henderson, and we have Charbonnet. Okay. So in a half PPR scoring format, if we need a wide receiver between Dobbs and Golden, I think, again, Golden off of the bye week should theoretically get more usage, but I think Romeo Dobbs has already established himself as the clear and away number 1 receiving option down in the red zone. So it's kind of hard not to go in his direction when there is such a strong basis of production there alone. So I'll lean towards Romeo Dobbs. He's ranked in my top 30 at wide receiver. Golden's in my top 40, but as of right now, Dobbs is the preferred. Now, as for the rest of your available options, I will lean towards Chase Brown. Again, I think the safest of those players is probably Charbonnet because there's a pretty good likelihood that the Seattle Seahawks get him down to the goal line and he punches it in for an automatic 10 fantasy points and a half PPR. So if you're looking for an automatic 10, you'd go in that direction. Otherwise, I think Chase Brown, with a pretty high volume of receiving utilization, an offense that should take some steps forward this week. They get Lucas Patrick back, one of their starting offensive guards. It should help the overall opportunity share. And of course, the effectiveness of the run and passing game. I'll probably lean towards Chase Brown there, but if you wanted to just go ahead and just take your free points, it would be Dobbs and Sharps. Thank you. Alejo sends in a question. Alejo, thank you very much. This is a full PPR pick one between BTJ, McConkey, and Olave. Okay, so Olave would theoretically be the number 1 answer here in the event in which tomorrow we get confirmation that Christian Gonzalez is out with injury. Now, let me just go ahead here. NFL Week 6. Okay, so Christian Gonzalez is the number one cornerback of the New England Patriots, if you guys weren't already aware. He typically shadows number one wide receivers. He will go into the slot. He will play out wide. It doesn't matter. So I would be afraid of him potentially tailing Olave for the entirety of this game, which would make him a lesser option effectively. Now, we will know this before the end of tomorrow morning's live stream, whether or not he is active. In the event in which he is not active, I would legitimately play Olave ahead of all three of these options. In the event in which he is active and he is playing, if it's between BTJ and McConkey, as of right now, let me see where I currently have them structured. This is a full PPR format. Okay, let's see where we have. As of right now, I have BTJ ahead of him. I would go BTJ against a Seattle secondary that is missing a lot of their potential starters, with three of them doubtful going into this weekend's game. So I go BTJ 1, McConkey 2, Olave 3. In the event in which Gonzalez was out, Olave would be number 1. Thank you, Alejo. I appreciate it. Continuing, we have Jeremy Torres, who sends in a question. Jeremy, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It says, one flex, J-Mo Williams, Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, or Andrews. I have no interest in playing Mark Andrews. Again, with Cooper Rush taking on the Rams, I don't know. I mean, I do think that this is going to be a gut check for the remaining players of the starting lineup of the Baltimore Ravens, offensive or defensive. They have to do something, right? They have to show some sort of signs of life. Like they have to show that they can still win some sort of, or be at least some sort of competitive team. Either way, I'm still not going to play Andrews there because he's far too touchdown reliant. Jameson Williams is a guy that I think there is some credence to playing him, despite how, I guess, consistently bad he has been. I was going to say consistently inconsistent, but as of right now, the way that I think about it, like when you take into account the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of they're the worst team in the National Football League against play action pass, and the team that is number 1 in play action pass is the Detroit Lions. There's just an opportunity there for a play action pass to open up for J-Mo to go 60 yards and a touchdown. There's a possibility. But again, if he doesn't make that one singular play, his whole fantasy week is pretty much dreadful. So if I'm going to potentially play one of these options, I probably just stick with Hassan Haskins and just hope that he falls into the end zone out of the available options you have here. But if I was feeling a little bit spicy on the matter, I would probably throw in J-Mo and just pray for the big bomb that pretty much leads to 12 to 16 fantasy points within the given week, assuming he's able to get a 60, 40, 80-yard touchdown, because we know he's capable of it, just hasn't been given enough of the opportunity share. I know he's dropped a couple passes here and there, has been ignored at times. So if it's a full PPR, I probably just roll J-Mo and take the risk. If it's a half standard, I'd probably go Hassan Haskins. Thank you. All right, Death Domingue sends in a question. It says May or Fields this week. I'd rather just play Drake May. I think there is some potential in which Fields in garbage time against Denver could put together a really good performance here. I just think there's a lot of risk entailed in that, especially considering the Jets have taken on this team, the Denver Broncos, in each of the last 3 seasons, and they haven't relatively fared well against that defense. So as of now, I probably just roll with Drake May against the Saints. I think there's a far more controllable aspect to that overall matchup in comparison to having to take on that Denver defense. But as we all know, I mean, Fields has just been so great in fantasy this year. It is tough to play him, but considering you have arguably a better player, I'll just lean in that direction because it is safe. Marvin Lewis sends in a question. Marvin, thank you very much. Says, one in the flex in the standard scoring format. We have Harvey, we have Demercado, we have Pitts, we have Burden, and we have Vidal. Okay. So look, as of right now, I think Luther Burden and Colston Loveland should be players that if you have an extra roster spot on your team available, because maybe you move someone to the IR or you just have someone that is sitting on the end of your bench that can be dropped, I think Luther Burden and Colston Loveland are players that I'm probably picking up just to see, coming off of the bye, if they get more of an expanded look of targets, because typically rookies after a bye week do get a little bit of a boost based on historical purposes. Now, Demercado I don't think is worth even a start. Again, I don't even know if the team is going to even play him. A couple weeks ago when we saw A.D. Mitchell fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone, obviously, showboating and all that kind of jazz, the next week he was benched. Demercado could get benched, and it could be Bam Knight as the number 2 back. We don't know. So as of right now, I'm not really interested in playing Demercado. Burden is someone that I'm holding on my bench. Vidal is not a bad option in comparison. Pitts has a horrible matchup. Honestly, out of the entire group, I just play RJ Harvey here in the hopes that the Denver Broncos claim enough of an early lead to where they are giving him the opportunities in the second half. Thank you. All right, Vapor is plenty. Thank you very much, Vapors. I appreciate it. It says, this is my lineup. Quarterback is Jones. Wide receivers Amon-Ra, Lad, Golden, Terry, Mooney. We have tight end Johnson, Mason. Okay. Running backs are JCM, ETN, Marks, Henderson. Who should I start this week? Okay. So obviously Daniel Jones is your starting quarterback. That's very easy. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Lad McConkey will be your 2 starting wide receivers. Hopefully you're playing Mason Taylor this weekend rather than Theo Johnson. Hopefully you followed the rankings and went in the direction of Mason Taylor here. As for running back, JCM and ETN would be the starts for sure. And then between Golden and Henderson at the flex position, I would probably just kind of lean in the direction of Golden in a full PPR, Henderson in a half PPR. But genuinely, I don't really have much hope in Henderson as of this current moment. So I probably, if I want to blanket it, I'll just play Golden regardless of scoring format and hope for a big play there. We know Terry and Mooney are out. We know Marks is on a bye. And yeah, so that's probably the direction I go in. I probably just play Golden there. The primary reason is because despite all the times that we have seen Ramondre Stevenson fumble, they still don't turn to Henderson for a greater workload share. And yes, Antonio Gibson is going to be out, and he was getting some run last week and every week thus far this season, but I don't think that's enough of an opportunity share in the direction of Henderson to make him that much more relevant because the run blocking of this offensive line has not been efficient enough. So as of this moment, Golden is just a safer play and has just as an equivalent, if not even more upside within the given matchup. So yeah, Jones, Amon-Ra, Lad, ETN, Marks, Golden, and Mason. Thank you. Thomas sends in a question, says Pittman or Kenneth Walker? Yeah, I'd rather just play Pittman there. Look, the Kenneth Walker potential play is always going to 100% be reliant on scoring a touchdown. And as much as we love how well Kenneth Walker has played in terms of efficiency, he still is going to be, unfortunately, tethered to the potential where at any given week, we could end up seeing Charbonnet come in as soon as they get into the red zone and 6 points is vultured away. So as long as that continues to be a part of the overall equation, I'd rather just play someone that is getting great opportunity share, getting good yardage shares in a solid matchup against Arizona, getting a lot of looks down in the red zone. I'll just probably play Pittman there. Yeah, it's not to say that Kenneth Walker isn't capable of scoring a touchdown, but in order to do so, he's going to have to rip a 30, 40-yard run, which, again, if anybody could do it, it's probably him. But as of right now, I go Pittman. Thank you. All right, Akuma187 sends in a question. Says, "Sup, Drew, in a 10-team full PPR league, if the weather is B-more, as in Baltimore, is bad, do I pivot?" Let me look at the weather report right now. I didn't think I would have to look at the NFL weather report as of this early into the season. It's only early October, so I thought maybe I could get away with not looking at weather. But let's see what it looks like as of this upcoming weekend. So as it currently stands, it says 23%. So 23% of the Baltimore generalized area is going to be covered in rain. As to whether that is the upcoming game here, as it starts at 10 a.m. PST, by tomorrow morning, we'll get a little bit of an understanding as to what it looks like. I would probably venture to say I'm still very comfortable with the idea of rolling Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, regardless of the overall weather situation. But tomorrow morning, prior to the live stream ending, I'll keep some tabs on it. We'll have boots on the ground in the Baltimore area that can kind of give us a little bit of an understanding as to what the weather looks like. But that's the only game in which there is potential impact at a relatively high capacity, nearly 25% coverage. But looking at your question, it says, do I pivot to from Stafford and start Fields or Indiana Jones? I mean, genuinely, I have Fields ranked higher already, so I would just tell you to play Fields as of right now. If you wanted to even avoid, like if the weather was bad enough, oh, but you wouldn't know because Fields plays early tomorrow. Okay, so in this case, if you're not willing to play Fields because you're worried about the Denver matchup and you want to wait to see if Stafford is going to be a fire-up candidate this week, you could just pivot him or Indiana Jones in this situation, to which, again, we'll know before the end of tomorrow's live stream, to which you could just pivot in that scenario. That's fine. But yeah, as of right now, going into this weekend, I'd probably have Fields ranked highest of the bunch. And then it would be probably Stafford second, Indiana Jones third, Mac Jones fourth. And yeah, we'll approach it in regards to that. But if you wanted to wait to play Stafford, you could, because Indiana plays in the same exact time frame tomorrow. And they're close enough within my rankings to where I could justify the pivot. Next question says, Bourne or Lad? I'd rather just play Lad McConkey there. Thank you. Sean K sends in a question. Says, Fields or Caleb? I'd rather play Fields. Thank you. Says, if Fields is currently having the Broncos defense, but could switch to Rams. I mean, Could switch to Rams. Would I? I don't think it's necessary. I understand the logic of not wanting your defense to play against your quarterback, but at the same time, like you're basically just trying to play the best overall options. Obviously, you're not trying to root against your quarterback at the same time in which you're rooting towards your defense, but I would just keep the Denver Broncos there. I'd fire him against Fields. I don't really have an issue there. Caleb has a good matchup, but weather could be a concern. Caleb technically on paper has a good matchup. I just don't know if he's going to be able to perform at that rate which we want him to this week. I'm a little bit concerned about it, so I'd rather just go in the direction of playing Fields this weekend. Sean, thank you. But again, as for your defensive question, like as it currently stands from my Patreon rankings, I have Denver like 2 spots ahead of the Rams. So if you wanted to just roll with the Rams, it's fine. But I just don't want to drop Denver. Like when I look at their upcoming schedule here, let's see. What does their, yeah, like they have the Giants next week. Then they have the Cowboys, the Texans, the Raiders. Like I kind of want to keep them throughout that span. So I don't want to drop them by any means. Thank you. Appreciate it, Sean. Santana Torres sends in a question. Says, love Achane, Rico, Chase, Tet, Warren, A.J. Brown, Philadelphia Eagles defense versus Herbert, Cook, Gibbs, Debo, Waddle, Ferguson, Scat, brother. Okay, 14-31 as of right now. Am I cooked? I mean, unless you get someone that is, unless you get another one of those Rico Dowdle 30-point bombs, or, you know, somebody plays far beyond their means. Like, we know that Tet's going to play great. So is Warren. Achane's going to be solid. So is Jordan Love. These are your X factors. Rico Dowdle and Jamar Chase. That's it. Depending on how they perform, will determine this entire week. But I would say if I was to potentially lean one way over the other, I would rather be putting, you know, the house on this team here that you're facing, because not only did they get a 30-point scat week, they have the best tight end in fantasy. They have Waddle, Debo, who are just going to continue to be monsters because, of course, McLaurin out and Tyreek Hill out. You have Gibbs and Cook, who, again, had a kind of underwhelming weeks last week and are going to bounce back here. And then they have Herbert in a pass-heavy offense. So I'd say you're probably cooked this week. But, hey, maybe fingers crossed that Jamar Chase, Rico Dowdle, you know, have some, you know, repeating weeks here. 30, you know, 26, 30 points up, you know, up ahead of them. All right, Sprinkles sends in a question. Sprinkles, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me see if I can find Sprinkles' question. Here we go. All right, it says PPR. Debating on which of these three to start between Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen, and Marvin Harrison. I am a Broncos fan, so I don't like the idea of playing Wilson. Neither do I. I don't really want to play Wilson either. I guess, like, the recency bias of just how well Wilson has played, regardless of the quarterback play, has certainly kind of deemed him a, like, auto start based on his production levels. But I don't like the idea of starting him either, mainly because of Patrick Surtain and the defense that they're taking on. I think it is very much so sketchy, to which I would probably just rather play Marvin Harrison as of this moment. Kyler's expected to play, and even if he doesn't, I think there's still a lot of credence to the idea of playing him with Jacoby Brissett in a negative game script against that Indianapolis secondary that has given up their fair share of points to opposing receivers. So I probably just play Marvin Harrison out of the three this week just to be incredibly safe. It says, hit or miss the other two. Yeah, look, Keenan Allen has to score a touchdown. Marvin Harrison, I think, can survive off of yardage. Again, this most recent week was tackled down at the 1-yard line. Could have very easily have scored on that play, and he would have had himself, you know, a pretty big week there. So I'll just lean towards Marvin Harrison to be safe there. Sprinkles, thank you. Johnny Kilroy, what's up, my man? Says, I know it's close, Nix or May to start. It is relatively close, but I think I'm probably going Drake May. Yeah, that's probably the preference, because when I look at the matchups in themselves, the running game of Denver is so effective as of late with J.K. Dobbins, Harvey, and the offensive line that I think it's just there's more potential for the game to get out of hand and them to just run it out in comparison to what Henderson and Stevenson are able to accomplish for the New England Patriots. So I'd probably just go with Drake May there out of the two. Thank you. Shang Bull sends in a question, says questions in the chat. Says, I'm currently 2-3 in a full PPR. I've got JD5. I've got Hall, Kamara, Jordan Mason, Tony Pollard, Michael Carter, Amon-Ra, Xavier Worthy, BTJ, Olave, and Warren. Trade BTJ for Tet McMillan and Kenneth Walker. Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt in my mind. I don't know how you're able to get that trade, but I would immediately make it. Tedorola McMillan thus far this season has seen such an incredibly high volume of targets, very similar to BTJ, in fact. Enough to where, like, if I'm not mistaken, let me just compare these two. In terms of total targets, BTJ right now, amongst all wide receivers, let's see, is number 18 in terms of, no, actually, he's number 16 in terms of total targets, while Tetairoa McMillan is number 8 amongst all wide receivers in terms of total targets. He has just as many targets as Jackson Smith and Jigba. So it's only a matter of time until Tetairoa McMillan really does begin to evolve. He's still a rookie, so there's still the kind of learning process and, you know, the experience that he needs to gain. But being able to get Kenneth Walker on top of it, I think just makes it a smash deal. Immediately take that, Shung. Thank you. Next, the 806 says, in a full PPR, pick one between Marvin Harrison, Michael Carter, or Kenneth Walker. I probably just play Marvin Harrison there. Michael Carter, again, didn't run incredibly efficiently last week. And even though I think there is a good chance to where they could perform relatively well on the ground against the Indianapolis Colts, as they've given up their fair share of points to opposing running backs on the ground, I think unless he falls into the end zone in a full PPR, there's just such a clear advantage for wide receiver. Michael Carter could end up accumulating 5 receptions, which really does give him like the advantage within the week. There's always a possibility of that taking place. And I mean, really, with Amari DeMercado doing what he did last week, there's a chance that it just could get pulled away from the direction of DeMercado that much more to where Carter just becomes like the auto start. I feel like DeMercado, well, look, here's the thing. Even if he doesn't score a touchdown, Michael Carter's probably like 12 points in a full PPR. The question is, what does it take for 12 points out of Harrison? 5 catches, 70 yards. Touchdown likelihood between the two of them is probably higher. Just play Carter. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to waffle on that a little bit. In a full PPR, shoot. I might go back and forth on that a while now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, let's just play Carter there. That's fine. If Kyler wasn't playing tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, we have to play Marvin in this case. But considering Kyler is playing and he checks it down more than just almost every quarterback in the league so far this season, let's just take Michael Carter there. Carter will be 1, Marvin Harrison will be 2, and then Kenneth Walker will be 3. Thank you. Esteban Simon sends in a question, says, would you trade Hampton for Derrick Henry and Ricky Pearsall? Yeah, immediately. Absolutely, yeah. Look, here's the thought process. I talked about this the last time we live streamed, which was Thursday night after the Giants put belt to ass against the Eagles. If you look at the upcoming schedule for the Ravens, and then if you go and look at my Tuesday running back rankings video and just look at the schedule in which they have, right? They take on Chicago, which is a top 3 running back matchup. Then they have Miami, which is top 10 matchup. Then they have Minnesota, which is a top 10 matchup. Then they have the Jets, who's a top 10 matchup. Cincinnati, top 10. Bengals, Cincinnati twice in 3 weeks, which is top 10. And then they have Pittsburgh, which is a top 15 matchup. Like, in terms of the upcoming schedule, they have one difficult game on the ground, the Baltimore Ravens, and that's against Cleveland. And earlier this year, obviously, Derrick Henry didn't bode well. He had 23 rushing yards in that game. But ultimately, I don't really care about that game. I look at the upcoming schedule, and I see 7 consecutive games of incredible matchups and a Baltimore Ravens team with Lamar Jackson that will be desperate for victories, to which I think he's just going to be incredible throughout that stretch. And you don't have to wait until the return of Hampton. It'll give you an immediate kind of juice to your lineup. I'm assuming by the time Henry comes back, you'll be 2-5, but that's fine. You can probably rip off five straight there from that point on. Says my other running backs are Javonte and Etienne. How do you view Henry versus Hampton rest of the season? The way that I'm currently viewing the prospect of both is I do think Hampton is probably going to be just as good when healthy, but the issue is, when is he healthy? Is it going to take another 4 consecutive games? Is it going to take 5? Like, what is the overall timeline of his return? And when he does return, is the offensive line going to even be healthy themselves? Because he's going to miss 1, 2, 3, 4 games here, minimum, maybe 5 in week 10. By the time he comes back, like, your season will already be toasted at that point. I'd rather have Henry because he's going to give you the life in that flex position that you need. Esteban, thank you. Nicholas says Jaylen Warren or Bourne in a full PPR. I'd rather just play Jaylen Warren. With Jawan Jennings starting this week, it makes it a little bit less appealing to roll with Bourne in this situation, even though he is coming off an incredible performance, and it wouldn't surprise me if he comes away with 6 catches for 70 this week. I think the prospect of him getting another 10 reception game is incredibly unlikely, especially against Tampa Bay. I know Tampa Bay's got their fair share of secondary injuries, and Jamel Dean is still questionable, and whether or not he plays certainly is going to impact the upside of both Jennings and Bourne, but as of this moment, I'd go with Jaylen Warren there. Thank you. Trevor Melville sends in a question. Trevor, thank you. Says, not sure who to start in my double flex, double wide receiver, double running back league. Okay, cool. Here we go. We have a bunch of players. We have Bill, Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, James Cook, Hall, Rico, Quentin Johnston, Ladd, Michael Carter, Golden. What do you think? Thank you. Okay. Let me pull out a notepad here just so I can kind of set it up in my own situation. So looking at the current opportunity you have, when we talk about wide receiver, Jamar Chase has to play. So Chase would be wide receiver 1. And then in terms of, you have Rico, Quentin Johnston. Okay. In the event in which if Quentin Johnston's healthy, I'm playing him as wide receiver 2. Running backs, I'm playing Cook and I'm playing Bill. And then for the double flex positions, I'm playing Rico Dowdle. And let's see. I probably roll with, look, that's the thing. It's either I roll with the consistency of what Sutton has provided, or I just lean towards playing Breece Hall and hoping that he gets a bunch of receptions. Decisions. It's a full PPR. I prefer wide receiver in that circumstance, but in the case of an upcoming Sauce Gardner matchup, I don't love the prospect of it. I'd probably assume there's a... If it's my team, I probably just go Chase, Johnston, Cook, Bill, Rico, and Sutton. That's probably how I roll it. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we move on to Santana Torres, who says Fields or Darnold. Worried about the blowout. Interesting. Yeah, look, the thing is, a blowout actually helps Fields, though, right? Like, that's the whole thing. In the case in which they're down, 20 points at halftime, that just means that Fields can just unleash the running category and throw for the entirety of the game, to where, like, he's not having to hand it off and lose points via the rushing of a Breece Hall, to which I'd rather just have Fields in that case. If you're worried about it even that much more in terms of like, oh, it's going to be a blowout and he's not going to play in the fourth, sure, maybe there's a conversation to be had there. But I don't think it gets to that point. Thank you. Like the Jeans, it sends in a question, says PPR, I need one in my double flex league. Okay, sit one between Henderson, Waller, and Sharps. If I was going to sit one of the group, I'd probably end up sitting Henderson, and I would play Waller and I would play Sharps between the bunch. It says, I'm stuck with Tyquan Thornton at my wide receiver 2, which honestly is not a bad wide receiver 2 to have, considering how much upside he has within the deep ball, which they continue to utilize him within. It says Bond, Flournoy, Wicks, Shepard are available. Okay, I think there is some credence to the potential of playing Sterling Shepard in the absence of Chris Godwin within that matchup. Am I going to comfortably play him instead of Tyquan Thornton? Probably, yeah. As of right now, like, Tyquan Thornton is pretty much Jameson Williams. He makes a huge play, we're in business. If he doesn't, we're a little bit in trouble. So of the available, I probably just lean towards Sterling Shepard here. In the absence of Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Bucky Irving, it's going to be the Egbuka and, of course, our Ebuka. No? Yeah, Ebuka. I don't even know. I like the Egbuka kind of pronunciation, but you guys know I've been messing around with that for a while. Anyway, yeah, I think Shepard's probably a pretty solid play out of the bunch. I don't know if Flournoy is going to be, a consecutive weekly kind of uptick of, yeah, I don't know. I think Flournoy might be just like a 1 week wonder. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Shepard's probably the way I go out of the group. Thank you. All right, Coolest Nerd says, hey, Andrew, my guy, in a half PPR, should I play Baker or Caleb? I'd rather just play Baker, even without Godwin. Baker's just been great. If you guys go back to last season, there was a stretch of time where there was no Chris Godwin and or Mike Evans for Baker Mayfield, and he was still fantasy relevant every single week there. So I'm not really too worried about his overall situation. He has rushing upside, so I think he's a solid play. For my wide receiver 2, should I play BTJ or Garrett? I honestly would rather just play BTJ as of this week. Thank you. Kent sends in a question, says half PPR, wide receiver / tight end flex position. Hollywood, Kincaid, Mason Taylor, or Luther Burden. Luther Burden is a stash. I keep him on my bench. Hollywood, I don't think is a viable enough play in my mind. I know he's coming off of a solid week here, but I would probably default to either one of the 2 tight ends, to which as of right now, I probably think to myself, like if Garrett Wilson's going to get shut down by Patrick Surtain, and Alan Lazard is also inactive this week, who's going to get majority of the receptions? It's either Mason Taylor or Breece Hall. So both of them should be incredibly relevant because of the overall matchup. But the excitement and the potential of a Kincaid touchdown makes it so where I'd probably lean towards Kincaid. I don't think, like, if it was a full PPR, I would just take Mason Taylor here and I would just blindly play him. Just purely off of the volume of receptions I'm anticipating and projecting. But as of right now, with the underlying kind of like potential of a touchdown in a half PPR, I go with Kincaid there between the group. Thank you. It says full PPR. What is this? Jawan, as in like Jawan Johnson, Bourne, Mason, Spears, Blue. Ugly, I know. Yeah, Blue's not startable. Spears is not startable. It's between these three to where like Jawan Johnson, I'm not too interested in. It's between Kendrick Bourne and Mason Taylor. Between the two of them, I would venture to say Bourne is probably going to get himself 5-6 catches, 60-70 yards, which I think is relatively safe. You can probably get 12 to 13 out of him because they're going to throw the ball 40 plus times. Can Mason Taylor put together a similar-esque performance? I think it's probably just safer to go with Bourne. I don't think Mason has as much touchdown upside either. I just go Bourne there. Thank you. Spencer James has questions in the chat. Thank you. Says, with no CeeDee Lamb and Kevontae Turpin again, if Quentin Johnston is out, do I play Flournoy or Horton? In the event in which that does occur, says KB playable even if Jawan Jennings plays. Yes, KB is still playable because of just the pure volume of passing attempts that the 49ers are consistently going with Mac Jones under center. So yes, I still believe that KB is playable and actually still a very viable option. Top 36, in fact. So if you have the opportunity of picking up and playing KB, I would go in that direction. But in the event in which that is not the case, do I want to play Flournoy? I don't want to play Flournoy. I'm going to be honest. I legitimately think like Jalen Tolbert's going to be a little bit more effective in this upcoming week. I'd probably go Horton there, actually. Thank you. Brian sends in a question. Says, Pickens, Ladd, Ibuka, we have Tedero, McMillan, pick 3 in a 10-team PPR format. Pickens, Ladd, Ibuka. I mean, Ibuka has to play. Pickens has to play. Tedero has to play. Ladd has to sit on the bench. Thank you. Chris sends in a question. Says, Ingram, Johnson, or Mayer at tight end this week? I would go Michael Mayer. Now that we know that Brock Bowers is out for sure, Michael Mayer is the play. I think Juwan Johnson's got a really solid matchup against New England. I think Ingram's got a relatively solid matchup against the Jets. But I think Michael Mayer, just purely off of the opportunity share that we saw tight ends get from the Raiders last week in the absence of both Mayer and Bowers, I think that alone is enough to where I'm going to play Mayer. If I'm not mistaken, Geno Smith targeted the tight end position like 10 times last week for 8 receptions. And their number one tight end last week was Albert Okwuegbunam, formerly of the Denver Broncos, if you guys remember that name. So Mayer's probably the play out of the group. Thank you. Nel Santiago says, hey, bro, PPR, 12-team league. I need 2 between Moore, Franklin, and Harvey. I don't really want to play DJ Moore, I'm going to be honest. I'd probably just go the other 2. DJ Moore is a player that a year ago this time was an auto start in every situation, even with the rough start of his season until they fired the offensive coordinator. But just how Rome Odunze is being utilized, I think there's going to be an expansion of usage for Loveland if he's healthy, and of course Luther Burden. I think DJ Moore is kind of just a role player within that offense as of right now. So Franklin and Harvey's the way that I probably go this week. Thank you. Christian Jackson, 3524, says PPR, start 1, Chase Brown or Michael Carter. I just go Michael Carter there. I think there's just too much safety in Michael Carter's potential, primarily because Chase Brown doesn't get any sort of rushing upside. So even if Flacco is there, I don't think that that's going to improve dramatically, to which I'd rather just go with Michael Carter because I think his receiving workload is just as kind of premier. And additionally, on top of it, I think there's more touchdown potential for Michael Carter effectively. Thank you. Creator Zoo says in a half PPR, and again, that's primarily because Kyler's playing. If Kyler's not playing tomorrow, then I just go Chase Brown. Creator Zoo says in a half PPR, would you trade Kamara for T and Gainwell? I think it depends on what you have at running back / wide receiver to kind of justify the move. The thing is, Kamara, in my mind, is not going to be a startable option in many of teams that I have this weekend, whether it is a 12 or 10 team league. I think Kamara very much so is a sketchy play, primarily because of the lack of utilization, the ankle injury. And then when you take on top of that, they're taking on New England, who is allowing less than 3.5 yards per carry on average to opposing running backs. They have really just gave it to every single backfield they have taken on this season. In specific, if you want to look at the rushing totals of the primary RBs against New England this season, they're not pretty, especially when we talk about last week. You know, coming off of consecutive games of 100 plus yards. James Cook ends with 49 rushing yards. The week prior, Chuba Hubbard only had 49 rushing yards. Jalen Warren 47, Devon Achane 30, Ashton Jeanty 38. They've done a pretty good job at containing running backs, so Kamara is not a startable option. T. Higgins, but that's just this week in specific. Now, if we're talking rest of season, Kamara's value is very much so attached to, is he going to be traded? If he doesn't get traded, I don't think he's trending in the right direction to where I would want to ship him off. And if you have enough running back depth, because I don't think Gainwell is a suitable replacement here, but if you have enough running back depth to be able to take and afford this trade and take the risk of it, then sure, we make it. Otherwise, hold and pray that he gets shipped off here to a better team that's actually going to give him opportunity share. Okay, Manil Patel sends it a question. Thank you, Manil. Says in a half PPR, Cade Otton or Ingram. I would play Ingram, clearly. Look, Cade Otton, I will say there is some justification in the idea of playing Cade Otton. Over the course of his career, when Evans and Godwin have both been out, his overall workload share of opportunity has risen greatly. But that has been in the absence of a Emeka Egbuka. So in the event in which you have Egbuka there, Sterling Shepard in the mix, it does make it a little bit sketchier to trust. Let me look at how well tight ends have played against San Francisco this season. Just curious off of my own idea here. So this most recent week against the Rams, obviously the Rams don't use tight ends, but in prior weeks, they gave up 9 catches for 68 and a touchdown to Jacksonville. Jaguars tight ends, they gave up 8 catches. 68 in a touchdown to Arizona tight ends, and then they gave up 5 catches, 49 and a touchdown to Juwan Johnson. So that's actually not a bad matchup either. I got to do some further research. Hold up. Give me a second here. As you can tell, just off of my overall kind of back and forth, I haven't fully established my rankings yet. That's what I spend majority of Saturday night going into Sunday morning researching and going over methodically. So I'm actually curious here now. I think the primary reason why the Jets have given up so many points to opposing tight ends, this was my suspicion. They've given up 5 receiving touchdowns to opposing tight ends, to which that kind of gives me the indication that it's not as sustainable potentially in comparison to the yardage count comparatively to what San Francisco's allowed. I think it's probably an Otton play here. Now that I've looked at it for a good amount of time, I think it's probably a Cade Otton play. I think both are justifiable. Both are probably going to be in my top 16 tomorrow morning. Maybe. We'll see. But I'd probably go Cade Otton. Golden, Jennings, Shepard. I'd probably just play Jennings 1, Golden 2, Shepard 3. Thank you. KB901 says, should I grab Tyquan Thornton off of the waivers and start him over Kareem Hunt in the flex this week? Wow. Kareem Hunt, very much so touchdown dependent. Tyquan Thornton can get away with it under the assumption that it's a full PPR. I'm okay with that. If it's a full PPR, let's go in that direction. I'm okay. In a half PPR situation, I'd still be okay with it, but I think there's just more viability just rolling with Hunt under the assumption that he can, he doesn't have to run well. He just has to get down to the goal line and he gets an easy, 6 points there. And he could probably put together 40 yards over the course of the game. So he could probably be a solid 10-point producer, to which Tyquan, in order to accomplish it in a half PPR, more difficult, but in a full PPR, just an automatic over him. All right, let's see here. EG sends in a question. Says, pick 2 in the flex, Rico, Brees, Javonte Williams, or Rachaad White. Okay, this is a really tough question. I think I play these 2 pretty comfortably, in fact. I'll play Rachaad White and I'll play Javonte Williams this week. I think that's a pretty comfortable play. Thank you. Brian Weiss sends in a question. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it. Says, evaluate my 3 Dynasty PPR Superflex trade. We have number 1, Gibbs and Jameson. 4, before injury, Benson, Hampton, and Rice. Okay, in terms of a Dynasty format, shipping off Gibbs and Jameson already scares me, but getting back at least Hampton and Rice is understandable. Pre-injury with Benson and Connor's injury, I could justify the move as a whole, especially considering if you needed the running back depth in comparison. So I'm okay with that trade. Obviously, in hindsight, hopefully Benson comes back and is able to produce. Hopefully Rice gets back to his normal self. Yeah, pre-injury, everything here looked pretty solid, especially for trying to win a chip this year. As for your second question, Keenan Allen, Michael Carter, and a 4th for Chase Brown, a 3rd. Yeah, that's fine because, again, Keenan Allen is a fleeting commodity, and so is, because again, he's getting up there in age. And Michael Carter is also a fleeting commodity. So getting Chase Brown and his future production and a better pick, I think, is a fantastic trade there. As for Penix Addison for Adunze Geno, yeah, that's just an automatic. Adunze is more valuable than both of these guys combined, even in a superflex format, because in my mind, like, I know that Geno's not the greatest quarterback, but he's still somewhat functionable in a solid matchup to where if he's not your starter, it's fine. But getting a Dunze here is just, I think it's too enticing in my mind, especially when you can get a quarterback next year via your draft. So yeah, I like all three of these trades, but obviously this one just, it hurts now that the injury's kind of ticked in there, Brian. Thank you. Zolbu, what's up, my man? Says hi, question mark. What's up? Says pick one in a full PPR. Downs, Travis Hunter, Haskins, or Leggett. I'm going to be honest, I'd play Downs here in a full PPR. Specifically, the Arizona Cardinals are not great in terms of stopping opposing slot receiving options. I think they're giving up over 10 fantasy points per game and a half PPR in that category. So in a full PPR, it's even that much more potential for upside. Additionally, over the course of the last couple weeks here, Josh Downs is seeing a pretty good target share within the opportunity. He's also getting a pretty good target rate in terms of routes run per targets. So Josh Downs is my suggestion. Travis Hunter does not play enough offense. Haskins has both of his starting tackles out. And Leggett, again, with Coker back, I think Coker's probably the guy that I would rather have, and I would drop him in order to get him. Downs is my play. Thank you, Zobu. Khalil Humphreys says 12-man half PPR, T. Higgins, Alvin Kamara, or Calvin Ridley. That's a really good question. Let me look at Calvin Ridley's status for this week. I'm just curious. I don't know why I'm as curious as I am, but I kind of want to go in his direction in hopes that the Raiders secondary is a little bit banged up, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Nope, they're not. Yeah, Eric Stokes is going to play, which is unfortunate. Do I want to play? I mean, at this point, I probably cannot play Alvin Kamara this week. So it's between T. Higgins and Calvin Ridley. I think between the two of them, with Joe Flacco coming in, them not being on the same page, I think there's inherent risk already involved with the potential of going towards T. Higgins, to which I'd probably just rather play Calvin Ridley for now. I go Ridley 1, T. Higgins 2, Alvin Kamara 3. Thank you, Khalil. Appreciate it, my man. All right, Van Media sends in a question. Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back up here, Van. Let me see if I can find your question. Van says WDIS. I don't know what that means. I gotta look it up on the internet now. So the internet says Workforce Data Integration System. I don't know. Who do I start? That's what it is. All right, cool. Never mind. I knew that's what it was. I just wanted to just... Okay, anyway. I'm trying to make jokes. Kelsey, Kincaid, who is questionable, or Waller. Yeah, considering Kincaid plays on Monday and it's a little bit sketchier, it's between Kelsey and Waller, to which, as of right now, I think there's a justification to where, like, Kelsey should probably be the guy you roll with, but considering Worthy looks like he's going to be at a full rate, I kind of want to play Waller. Genuinely, I think tomorrow morning I'm going to have it switched up. I probably go Waller 1, Kelsey 2, Kincaid 3 in this scenario, Van. Thank you. SR20 Mar says Dobbs, Shaheed, Golden, Bourne, Hollywood Brown. I need a wide receiver. Okay. Let's see here. So Dobbs, Shaheed, Golden, Bourne, and yeah, Dobbs has to be the guy. Like, Shaheed is very much so a very enticing play, especially considering out of all of the receiving options of the Saints over the course of the last couple of weeks, he's been getting a lot of run in the slot position in comparison to Olave, who really did start the season as like they moved him around the formation a lot, got a lot of receiving utilization out of the slot, but Shaheed's kind of been able to take over that as of late. Dobbs would be 1, Shaheed would be 2, Bourne would be 3, Golden 4, Hollywood Brown 5. To which, if you were going to play one alongside of Jamar Chase this week, I'm playing Romeo Dobbs. Thank you. Demond Smith, what's up, my man? How you doing? Says in a full PPR, since Mac Jones is questionable, he's going to play. Don't question it. He's going to play. They have to leave him as questionable because he didn't practice at a full capacity on Friday. So whenever you don't practice at a full capacity on Friday, you can't be taken off of the injury report. So they have to leave you with the questionable tag. So don't even question whether he's going to play. He's for sure going to start. Would you start Trevor Lawrence or him? Now, as for the question in specific, that's a really good one. As of right now, earlier this week, prior to knowing whether or not it was going to be Purdy or Mac Jones, I had Trevor Lawrence ranked relatively high because of the rushing upside that he presented last week, and I am interested in potentially chasing said rushing upside once again this week under the assumption that, yeah, I kind of want to chase that. So between the two, I would legitimately just play Trevor Lawrence this week. I want to chase rushing upside that he provides. Because in fantasy, 4-point per passing touchdown, it's hard not to. Johnny Kilroy says Steelers or Rams defense this week. I have the Steelers ranked higher. Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, Jalen Ramsey's expected to play. He did get a full participation in practice on Friday, which is definitely going to bode well for them. Thank you. Xavier says, got to start one in a full PPR. We have Golden or Montgomery. It's a really good question. I think I have to play Montgomery there. When we talk about the potential which this offense functions, I know that Taylor Decker, the starting left tackle for the Lions, is going to be out. He was designated out earlier today, which is obviously not exciting. But I think just off of the pure expectation of how many points are going to be scored in that game, it'd be hard for me to believe that there's a possibility in which Montgomery doesn't find the end zone. I want to say KC does well against the run. Even though you may think that to be the case, they haven't actually been that great this season in terms of stopping the run. This has actually been the worst season for the KC run stop defense in recent memory, to be honest. Because if I remember the last 2 years, they were always a defense that I never wanted to start my running backs against, specifically based on rushing statistics allowed. If we look at what they've allowed so far this season, they've given up a 4.87 yard per carry average to opposing running backs, 12.26 fantasy points per game on the ground. They're the worst team in terms of yards per carry allowed against outside zone rushes. And if you wanted to guess who runs the most outside zone in the National Football League, it's the Detroit Lions. Like, I feel like there's just so much potential there for Montgomery to just be the better play, in my mind. Like, if you wanted to roll with Golden, again, his opportunity share is going to be there. He's going to get a couple shots down the field with no Christian Watson out there this week again. He's coming off of a solid week, but it was technically 5 quarters of play, and he had 5 receptions. I would have loved to seen far more workload from him, not just one reception per quarter. But it could very well end up being the case once again, considering the Packers don't have to pass the ball much to win. They can just run it out, especially if their defense does a lot of work. I'm playing Montgomery there. Thank you, Xavier. All right, let's see here. All right, checkmate. I'm assuming that's what doesn't matter. Xbox says PPR pick 3, Henry, Genty, Hall, Diggs. Genty has to play, Diggs has to play, and between Hall and Henry, I'd rather play Breece Hall, genuinely, because of the full PPR format. So Henry sits on my bench. Blaze sends in a question. Thank you, Blaze. I appreciate it. It says pick 2 wide receivers, 2 flex in a full PPR. Who would you start between Diggs, DK, Jacoby, Dowdle, JCM, and Golden? Okay. Your 2 flex options have to be Golden and JCM. Has to be. And as for my 2 wide receivers this week, I'm playing DK Metcalf and I'm playing Stephon Diggs. So Diggs, DK, Dowdle, JCM. Thank you, Blaze. I appreciate it. Carolina Nurse says, sup, man? How's it going, Carolina? Says full PPR. Currently have Pickens, Moore, and Golden in. Okay. Would you swap one for Flowers, Pitts, or Waller? I would probably replace DJ Moore with Waller in this case. And then am I playing Flowers is questionable, so I'm not even worried about the Golden over him right now. I'm just kind of thinking, do I want to play DJ Moore, to which I'm leaning towards no. I'd probably just play Darren Waller in that case. Pickens, Waller, Golden works for me, Carolina. Thank you. Andrew sends in a question. Says, man, stuck with Bill or Judkins in my flex. What do you think? So here is the reason why Bill is going to go ahead and move up my rankings pretty significantly going into this weekend. I know that he plays on Monday, and I'm still waiting to see what the practice report looks like for Chris Rodriguez Jr. From what I saw yesterday, Chris Rodriguez hadn't practiced Thursday or Friday. If he doesn't practice again today, which is probably what he's trending towards, let me see what his overall status is going into this weekend just really quickly. If he's not going to play, that makes it that much more of a convincing start for Bill, who's taking on the 3rd easiest matchup at the position. And then additionally on top of that, okay, let's see here. Chris Rodriguez, questionable as of 48 minutes ago. Did he end up practicing, though? I need to see. Let's see if I can find the Commander's official injury report, because I know their website hasn't updated as of yet, so... Okay, yeah, so Chris Rodriguez Jr. did not practice a single time this week. Not Thursday, not Friday, not Saturday. So I don't expect him to play Monday. Bill with no competition in the backfield for touches against the 3rd best running back matchup of the week, where the Chicago Bears have allowed 6.05 yards per carry to opposing running backs. 18.58 fantasy points per game on the ground alone. I'm automatically just playing Bill. I hate the fact that I have to sit Judkins to accomplish it, but hey, he's the better play. And then it says Javonte and Rico are my 1 and 2. Yeah, I would go the exact same way. You're good to go there, my man. Thank you, Andrew. Chris sends in a question. Says PPR, Sterling Shepard or Jameson Williams? Oof. This is the thing. Like, Sterling Shepard could come away with like 6 catches for 30 yards and still be a lesser play than JMO, because that's what Sterling Shepard kind of functions as. Like, I'm actually curious here. Let me see here. I have to see what Sterling Shepard's kind of usage rate kind of jumps to when there's no Godwin or Evans in the lineup. As of late, he's had 1 actually solid game. Let me go back to his 2024 score lines here, because there was a pretty good semblance of time after that Baltimore game where he was getting a lot of usage. No, he wasn't. I think I just play JMO there. I take the risk. I think the best case scenario is you get 5 catches for 50 yards and you take a 10-point solid play. In the event in which he scores a touchdown, I think it's rare. So I'd rather just have JMO in this circumstance and just hope for the Omega touchdown. Mr. Burns says, hello, Andrew. In a half PPR, pick 2, Jalen, I'm assuming that's Warren instead of Wallen, Quentin Johnston or Michael Carter Mike. I mean, brother, whatever, Mr. Burns, your autocorrect just completely just cooked you for a second there. As for your available options, Jalen Warren, Quentin Johnston, Michael Carter. In the event in which Johnston's available, I would go with Warren and I would go with Johnston. In the event in which he is not available tomorrow morning against the Miami Dolphins, then again, the decision will be made for you when you play Warren alongside of Carter. Thank you. Also, Dak or Drake May. I'd probably just play Dak Prescott there. I'm pretty comfortable with that idea. Thank you. Dave sends in a question. Says half PPR start BTJ or Flowers? Flowers is questionable with injury. Has a pretty tough situation as of right now with the quarterback play. I think he's still going to be a solid potential option in terms of like 5 catches for 60, 70 yards. But I think as of right now, BTJ is the better of the two. Thank you. Spencer James says Horton, Thornton, or Shepard? Thornton, number 1, probably. Horton, number 2. Shep, number 3. Garrett Wilson or Olave? It purely is going to... Well, look, here's the issue that you have, okay? You have Olave versus Surtain, and you have... Sorry, no, scratch that. You have Garrett Wilson versus Surtain, and you have Olave versus Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez did practice this week twice, Thursday and Friday, at a limited capacity. So I think that there's a higher likelihood in which he is trending to play against Olave. To which, when I'm looking at the situation, I'd probably rather just play Garrett Wilson there. But because Garrett Wilson plays 3 hours before Olave, and you can't wait to hear the news as of Olave's situation against Gonzalez, I think I just play the stud and I just roll with Garrett. Thank you. All right, Gucci Han, what's up, my man? Says my guy, in a full PPR, I'm starting Njoku and I'm flexing Pitts. Okay, I don't love it. I kind of want to flex Spears because I have Pollard starting as well. Am I crazy? Yeah, I think at that point, I think it'd be a little bit crazy. Now, I do think that there is a little bit of justification of the decision, primarily because they're taking on the Raiders. I think there's more rushing opportunity, but then again, it's really just a matter of how much utilization in terms of snaps, and additionally on top of it, how much opportunities in terms of touches is Spears going to be exposed to which we did hear the head coach and offensive coordinator say this week that Spears is going to get ramped up and get more utilization as we proceed. As to how much that is going to grow this week, 1 week from last, only getting 4 rushing attempts, I think it's not going to be significant enough. I'd probably just play Pitts and Njoku at that point, especially considering Mooney is out. I think Pitts is a better play this week. Thank you. Zerby sends in a question. Pitts, Baker, May, or Dak? I think they're all fantastic options. In a 6-point per passing touchdown league, I'm probably just playing Dak Prescott at that point against Carolina. Thank you. Tedderall, McMillan, or Sutton? I'd go with Ted McMillan there. Thank you. King Alex sends in a question. King, thank you very much. I appreciate it, my man. He says, in a full PPR, Kyle Pitts, Kincaid, Ingram, Otten, or Mayer? As of right now, I'd probably go with Kincaid. I know he's questionable and he plays on Monday, but if I'm not mistaken, we should have an official report as of their practicing of today. Let me see here. If I go to the Bills official Twitter, let's see here. Buffalo Bills, they should have an injury report that is displayed out here. No, okay, maybe if I go to their website. Here we go. Okay, so here's their official injury report as of this week. Nope, that's not really going to help me out, is it? Okay. I got to go to my actual link because I don't think the internet wants to serve me too well here today. Where is the Bills on my list? New England, Miami, The Jet. Why don't I have the Bills set up here? Oh, you know what? Okay, you know what I can do? I can just find it via the Falcons injury report because they are attached to one another. So if I go to the Falcons here, go down to the Bills. Okay. Kincaid limited every single day this week with an oblique injury. I'd probably still play Kincaid. In the event in which his questionable tag goes to inactive, I just play Pitts in his place because there's no Mooney and Pitts will be the next best option. Thank you. All right, let's see here. The Tron TV sends in a question. Have you seen the new movie? Is it any good? I like the last Tron movie, Legacy, but that was, what, 15 years ago? I just don't know if this new one's going to be worth a damn. JCM over Rashad White. Chris Rodriguez is out. I would probably venture to saying, can I play both? If I had to pick one or the other, I think it depends on format. I think in a half PPR standard, I go JCM. In a full PPR, I probably go Rashad White because he's going to get all the touchdown upside, and he's probably going to catch the ball 8 times tomorrow. So that's what scares me in terms of full PPR and ditching Rashad White. Otherwise, half PPR, regular standard, the rushing upside really taking the control, I'd go JCM. Thank you. Gucci Han Louis Han sends in a follow-up, says, LOL, full PPR. We have needed wide receiver 2 out of Bourne, Downs, and Flournoy. I'd go Bourne number 1, Downs number 2, Flournoy number 3. I have Chase in my wide receiver 1. Yeah, you're good to go there. Yeah. I'd go with Bourne there, Reg. Thank you. Daniel sends in a question, says, pick 1.5 PPR, Kamara, Golden, DJ Moore. I genuinely just play Golden there. I don't even take the risk with DJ Moore or Kamara. Says, also, I have Waller and Andrews. I'd play Waller there. Oh, well, as in like backups? Njoku's on waivers. Oh, wow. Okay. So if this is the case, I would like to play Waller and Njoku if you have the opportunity to do so. I think I would rather just pick up Njoku, drop Mark Andrews, and play Njoku along, over all 3 of these options as my flex this week in a half PPR. Thank you. Appreciate it. Paul sends in a question, says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, flex Jalen Warren or Quentin Johnston with the hamstring. Yeah, look, if he's active tomorrow, I probably just roll him, as in I would roll with Quentin Johnston. If you wanted to avoid the risk, you certainly could, but I think they wouldn't throw him out there unless they knew that he was at a full capacity. They have enough wide receiver help across the board in the form of Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen to be able to still win that game without Johnston. So I'd assume that if he's active, that's probably a good sign in regards to his recovery. So I go Johnston there in the event in which he's active. Thank you. Travis sends in a question, says Kincaid or Michael Carter. I'd rather just play Michael Carter there. Thank you. Eric M says, PPR, would you drop Charbonnet or Stevenson for Ridley? Probably not, no. It depends on what your running back depth looks like. Says, I have too many running backs, and I need a wide receiver for week 8 if I have Nakua and Njigba on bye. Okay, cool. So if you were theoretically going to drop one of the two, I would rather just drop Stevenson. I don't think he is going to ever really be a startable option if you have, quote-unquote, too many running backs, especially considering he's not an efficient runner and is very much so reliant on touchdowns. At least with Charbonnet, there's the possibility of which, if in fact, God forbid, but if something in the event in which Kenneth is to be limped or injured, Charbonnet immediately becomes a top 10 running back every week, in which that would never happen with Stevenson, even if anything happened to Hendo. All right, Stoney sends in a question. Thank you, Stoney. Says, PPR, thoughts? Swap another. Okay, let's see here. Thoughts. Swap anyone. Starters are Allen, Henry, Scat, Dowdle. We have wide receivers St. Brown, JSN Jacoby, tight end Laporta, flex McConkey, and Troy Franklin. Defense is the Broncos. My bench consisting of Jordan Love. Okay, so I wouldn't play Jordan Love over Josh Allen, so you're good. Tyjae Spears, not interested. Coker, not interested. Kincaid. Laporta, I would rather play Laporta. Mason Taylor, I'd probably still rather play Laporta there. So also have the New England Patriots defense, to which, no, I'm still going to play the Broncos there. Yeah, you're good. I wouldn't change anything. I think you're in a perfect position as to your starter sits going into this weekend. Thank you. Alex Ruiz sends in a question. Alex, thank you. Says, PPR, currently have Jawan as my tight end. On the waivers, we have Barner, Fannin, Ingram, Muth, Mayer, and Otten. Okay. Wow. So we've got pretty good opportunities here. So I'm not interested in Fannin, nor am I interested in Muth or Barner. Again, Barner needs to absolutely, without a doubt, blindly score a tutty. Fannin is pretty much just a slot receiving option of the offense. A little bit less enticing there with Ramsey playing. I think Ingram, Mayer, and Otten are my 3 that I would probably position myself to play. Says, which one would you roll with this week, and which one for rest of season? Okay, so rest of season would probably be Ingram, especially now that he's healthy in comparison to the entire field. Now, as for what we're doing this week, let me see where I currently have them structured. It's going to change by the time I get to tomorrow morning because I'm going to have to do a little bit more research in regards to the situation of what Otton looks like in the absence of other, guys at wide receiver. He's really been an ignored piece in the offense, but obviously the injuries could end up elevating him. But in comparison to Mayer, there's a conversation to be had there just because of the dedication of targets towards the tight end position in specific for the Raiders. Like the offense is built to get tight ends the ball. So when that's the case, objectively, it feels like that should be the play. And as of right now, that's my suggestion. I go Michael Mayer number 1 out of all those options. Rest of the season, give me Evan Ingram. Thank you. JPC123 money sign says, or dollar sign more like, PPR, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Garrett Wilson, Emeka, London, Hall. Yeah, as of right now, those are my 2 wide receivers, Emeka and London. And am I going to play Hall or Garrett Wilson? I am going to lose my mind. That is such a difficult question to answer. I think I play Breece Hall. I think I genuinely do. I don't like it, but I think I have to. And I hope he breaks out a run or something. Because Garrett Wilson against Surtain scares the crap out of me. I think I play these 3. Thank you. Heavy CMC sends in a question. Heavy, hope you're doing well. Long time no see. Says questions in the chat box. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know what all these emojis are, but I appreciate it, my man. All right. Says I'm in an 18 full PPR. Who should I start in my flex? Breece Hall or J.K. Dobbins? I'd rather play J.K. Dobbins there. I think in a full PPR, there's a little bit of a justification in regards to the potential which Breece Hall could provide under the assumption that he hauls in a horribly high volume of receptions, which again could very easily occur. But as of this week, based on how consistent we have seen J.K. Dobbins perform, it just becomes an incredibly difficult position to not play him. Like the guy every single week. Let me pull this up. Where is I need to find my links, and then let's go to this link. We go to running back. We go to 2025. We go to full PPR. Like if we look at Dobbins and where he's finished this season. Week 1, running back 14. Week 2, running back 16. Week 3, running back 14. Week 4, running back 28. Week 5, running back 16. So he's been a top 16 running back for 4 of the last 5 weeks. To which, why wouldn't I play him against a very soft run-stop defense of the New York Jets that as of right now are allowing 4.29 yards per carry, 15.7 fantasy points per game on the ground alone. They've given up over 100 rushing yards per game on average. In fact, to be exact, they've given up 111 rushing yards per game this season. It just seems like the automatic play is just to go with the safety of what J.K. Dobbins can provide. Hope he falls into the end zone. Thank you. Let's see here. Chico 410 says PPR flex Zay, Bourne, Kamara, Sharp. It's a really good question. I probably end up playing Bourne or Zay Flowers, to which I probably lean towards playing. Considering the questionable nature of Zay, I probably go Bourne number 1, Zay Flowers number 2, Charbonnet number 3, and Kamara number 4. Thank you. I'm actually curious now that I'm thinking about this. What does Breece Hall look like the last couple weeks in terms of production? I know he's been a little bit of an uptick. So last week, oh, wow. Okay. So he's been RB19 and RB12 in the last 2 weeks, 16 and 17.5 fantasy points in a full PPR. Obviously very reliant on those receiving yards. The only question is he going to have enough time to rack the rushing yardage that we know he's capable of racking? That's it. Because the last 2 weeks, he's had 81 and 113 rushing yards. Is he going to have enough opportunity to rack that? Because if he is, then he's the play. But I just don't know if that's going to be the case this weekend. I'm hoping, for the sake of a lot of my teams that have him on it, I'm glad that he's performing far better than he has earlier this year. But for now, I probably just play Dobbins. I'll take the safety of that, the negative game script, the positive script. Andrew says, thanks for the help, man. You're the best. I appreciate it. Did you have a question? Let me see here. Oh, no, you were just asking about the Judkins Bill. Yeah, let's go with Bill there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Eddie J, what's up? Says, Andrew, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. Sutton, Tet, Chase Brown. Okay, so Ted or Old McMillan has to play objectively because they play against the Dallas Cowboys. Deron Bland is questionable again. We know that, if I'm not mistaken, Trayvon Diggs has also been dealing with his injuries over the course of the last couple weeks. Let me pull up the Dallas Cowboys injury report. Yeah, Trayvon Diggs dealing with a knee injury, still again recovering from all that injury. The shoulder injury for Deron Bland continuing to be a nuisance for him. So we're certainly not getting 100% full healthy secondary of that defense. So Tetairoa McMillan against the number one matchup at the wide receiver position, we're firing him up. Now, in regards to Sutton or Chase Brown in a full PPR, my mind tells me to play Sutton, but my goodness, is it a tough matchup? Yeah, I'd just play Sutton there. I'm just going to hope for the best. I don't really want to play Chase Brown as of this moment. Thank you. Joey B. Joey, long time no see. I hope you're doing well, my man. Says, hello, Andrew. Should I drop Mark Andrews and pick up Njoku for rest of season? I think there's a conversation to be had in regards to the potential, which that is a viable option. Do I believe that is something that I'm 100% all the time going to do? No, but in the case in which you can play Njoku this week and next week while Mark Andrews is out, I don't think anybody in your league is going to go out and pick him up until the return of them in week, 8? So for now, I don't mind the swap. Give Njoku a couple weeks here with Dylan Gabriel. If he continues to play well, then, it's perfect. And you don't have to even worry about Mark Andrews. Ira sends in a question. Ira, thank you. Says Charbonnet, Keon Coleman, or Jamison Williams in the flex PPR. I think I just take. Look, here's the thing. You could take your 10 points here, or you can go for the big potential of a 16, 20-point week. That's basically it. There's no middle ground. You're either going to get 0 or you're going to get 20 from Jamison Williams. That is what he has pretty much provided thus far this season. And even though that is the case, I think there is the potential desire in which I want to go that direction, because even in the worst case scenario, he only gets like 7.5 points. I don't think in a full PPR, Charbonnet is doing much more damage than like 10, 11, to which like the separation of value there, I don't see Charbonnet having like a 20-point week. I don't think he's capable of it. So in a full PPR, I'm okay getting like 7 if it means that Charbonnet only gets 10, 11, 4-point difference with the potential which JMO gives me the upside of a 20-point week. I don't really like Keon Coleman primarily because of the matchup against AJ Terrell. So I'll take JMO there. Easy E says questions in the chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Says Superflex Standard League, 3 wide receivers. Says we have QB as Knicks, running backs Bijan Jacobs, wide receivers are Johnston, if he doesn't play Dobbs, JSN, Tetairoa McMillan. Okay, sounds good. Waller. My Superflex is Darnold, JK or JCM. Oh, okay, interesting. Wow. Pinheiro, and we have the Green Bay defense. Bench is Coker. Comments and adjustments on the lineup. Yeah, Loki. So here's my thoughts, okay? Knicks is the correct play at quarterback. In a Superflex format, I probably would not find myself playing J.K. Dobbins or JCM over Darnold. I have a hard time accomplishing that, primarily because I think in a Superflex league, you should always be trying to strive to play a quarterback in that second position. And based on what we've seen from Darnold in the last 4 games, in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, putting up 17.8, 16.7, 16.1, and 28.6. He's pretty much a guaranteed 16 points this week, to which I think there's a possibility in which both JCM and J.K. Dobbins are very easily able to accomplish it, but Darnold has more upside intrinsically based on the fact that he plays quarterback, and it could be a shootout against Jacksonville. So I think the upside nature, the floor, everything leans towards playing Darnold there. And then you have to, of course, keep these two as your starting running backs. Now, my only question is, like, who's your flex? Like, if I'm playing a flex between J.K. Dobbins and JCM, I'm just going to play JCM there at that point. If there is no flex, then so be it. Keep it as such. Thank you, Easy. All right, Kamikaze says, hey, Drew, questions in the chat. Thank you, Kamikaze. I appreciate it. It says, thanks, bro. Is it worth to starting Tongs in the flex over somebody the option of Hollywood or Thornton? You know what? There is some justification there, primarily because Tampa Bay is not great in terms of stopping opposing tight ends. Just to put it into exact perspective, we talked about it earlier this week in my tight end and quarterback rankings video. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are giving up the 10th most points, but that's primarily because of receiving touchdowns allowed. And that's really what Tongs has kind of been featured as within this offense in the absence of, George Kittle. So there is a conversation to be had to where if you're just chasing the touchdown potential for upside, I think Tongs can be the guy. Says also, where do you rank these wide receivers this week? Bourne, Keon, DJ Moore, Thornton. As of right now, I'd go Bourne 1. I'd probably roll with like DJ Moore 2, Thornton 3, Keon Coleman 4. But am I playing Tongs over Hollywood or Thornton is the question. I think that's a really tough one, actually. Because if he does score a touchdown, like, we're in business and we don't have to worry about nothing. But yeah, I probably do. I think I take the risk. I go for the touchdown upside. I play Tongs there over these following options. Thank you, Kamikaze. Robert sends in a question. Thank you, Robert. Says in a half PPR, Carter versus Henry. Genuinely, I think I'm rather just playing Carter as of right now. With Kyler Murray expected to play tomorrow, I think that's the direction I go in. JMO or Thornton? Thornton has been more consistent as of late. So, like, do I want to go away from that? In the last 4 weeks, 11.9, 13.1, 7.1, and 9. That's a standard league. Sorry. If I go to full or half PPR, apologies. 10.5. I'm going to play Jameson Williams there, genuinely. I think I'm willing to take the risk. I'm beginning to kind of open up to the possibility of it. If you want to play Thornton, you can. I don't think it's a bad idea. You're versus Mahomes. I mean, you could go for the nullification there, but I think if the game is expected to be as high scoring as it potentially is, I think JMO is going to be highly implicated. Juice Vino, and I say this even despite the fact that the Lions have scored 30 plus points each of the last 4 games, and JMO has been a no-show in 3 of them. I know that there's a lot of inherent risk, but again, that's kind of what you're just buying into. You're buying into like, oh, is he going to get 6 points or is he going to get 20, 18? I think you could go for like the 8 to 10 here, or you can go for the 6 to 18. You know, it's just like the risk that you're willing to, you know, the devil you know, or the devil you can, you know, you don't know. I don't know. Juice Vino says, do you think Debo will play? Yeah, I think he will. I mean, again, considering they're playing on Monday, let me just go look at the injury report that they posted, the Washington Commanders organization, real quick. Man, I don't know why they update their. Man, whoever's running their website needs to. They need to hire me, and I'll just run it for them, so I know who's injured. All right, let's see here. So looking at the practice reports and the injury report, Deebo Samuel was DNP on Thursday, limited on Friday, then DNP on Saturday. So he did not practice in the most important practice of the week, which is Saturday, which scares the living crap out of me now. So going into Monday, he says your alternative options are Ridley or Dobbs. My only question to you, Juice, is do you have a potential available option that plays on Monday? Considering there are 4 teams playing on Monday, Bills, Falcons, Bears, and Commanders. My question to you would be, is there another pivoting option? Like, for example, if you can't play Debo, can you wait and then maybe play Luther Burden in that same game, or play Keon Coleman or Khalil Shakir, or I don't know. Yeah, something of that nature. If that is not the case, I think you just have to blindly just play Dobbs and roll with it, because a DNP on Friday doesn't really give me much hope. Kamikaze sends in a follow-up. Says Sterling Shepard is on the wire too. Missed my question. Did I miss your question? I thought I answered it. Missed my main question. Retype it in for me, my man, and I'll check it right now. Chris T says, bench 1, full PPR, Cook, Kyron, Genty, Dowdle. Genuinely, Dowdle gets the bench. Genuinely. Everybody else is fine. The reason why Dowdle gets the bench is because another one of their offensive linemen is out this week. They're starting right tackle, Moton. Cook against Atlanta is a great matchup. I mean, it's not a great matchup, but I think it's a better bounce back potential. Kyron, you have to play. Genty is like the best player of the bunch. So Dowdle has to take the seat in this scenario, because I wouldn't live with myself sitting James Cook. Thank you. Okay, so we took care of that. Let me go ahead. Let me update. I think it's going to crash any second now. Let me see if I can find Kamikaze's question as a follow-up. Says, I need help starting lineup. 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex. I'm starting Caleb, Tet, Thornton, Cook, Jalen. We have Tyler. We have Vidal. We have Tongs, Hollywood Brown, Io Manor, Horton, with Pearsall, Lamb, Terry, and Bucky all out. So in terms of quarterback, obviously Caleb is your starter. Tedero, McMillan, and Thornton. Okay, so theoretically speaking, you have a double flex format. You really don't have any primary situation. If like, are you going to play anybody over him? I mean, theoretically, you do have Hollywood, you have Io Manor, you have Horton. I'm okay with Thornton there. Cook, Warren, Tyler Warren, Vidal. I don't know if I want to play Vidal there in a half PPR. I think if I'm in your situation, honestly, gosh, that's a tough one. In a half PPR, it is justifiable. Tongs in my flex is fine. I don't think I want to play Vidal. I think I want to play Horton there. I'm going to be honest. I think that's probably the way I go. Or even Io Manor. Either of those two is probably the way in which I function it. Chris T sends in a question. Okay, we already took care of Chris T. Okay, perfect. Okay, so caught up on that. Let's go ahead and let's close all of these overall links that I was opening up, all these injury tabs that we were worried about going into this weekend. Again, a quick reminder, again, for those of you who are here joining us this evening, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, I've been here for about an hour and 20 minutes. We'll probably be here for another 20 to 40. We'll have to wait and see how many questions we have rolling in. But I will be back tomorrow morning as early as 6 a.m. PST with my eyes barely open and with probably 2 hours of sleep under my belt. We'll be answering questions for 4 hours tomorrow morning while obviously watching the Denver Broncos take on the Jets, in which we're hoping for a high-scoring event. Fingers crossed. But again, if you guys want to get those Sunday morning rankings so you don't have to worry about waking up very early and taking care of all that kind of jazz, of course, you could check out the Betr sign up opportunity, in which you can sign up using code Andrew, make that first time deposit minimum of 10, and to make that first time play minimum of 1. Of course, you have to be eligible based on the map to the right side of the screen. And of course, if you sign up today, you get a free $10 on top of a potential deposit bonus for when you make that first time deposit minimum of 10. Additionally, on top of it, if you guys are not interested in that, or you potentially just want to go ahead and avoid that and go in the direction of potentially the Patreon, that is always an opportunity which you guys can explore. Again, we've talked about this in the past in regards to getting those rankings every Thursday, Sunday, additionally asking me questions on an individual basis. So you don't even have to swing by via the live stream. You can just ask those questions, or of course, get those rankings effectively over the course of the week. Thank you. Okay. We had a couple more questions sent here. Easy E says, looking to pick up wide receiver in a standard, Burton, Watson, or your suggestion. I would pick up, honestly, give me, I would rather have Luther Burden, actually. I think that's a pretty good kind of role, just to take the risk on it. I'm okay with that. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the live chat here. Open this up. All right. Let me scroll up here a little bit. Adunze or Judkins? What do I do? Adunze is probably my suggestion there. Drop Golden for Franklin or Shaheed. I mean, if we're talking about like long-term or short-term, that's the question, right? Like in terms of short-term potential, like this week, I'm going to have both Franklin and Shaheed ranked higher than Golden, but it's not like I would want either of the two more than Golden in the current. If I was going to make a move, no, I don't think you have to drop them. I'm okay holding on to Golden and just hoping for, oh, there goes my YouTube crashing. Sorry about that, guys. Let me just go ahead and reset the link right now, and then we'll be good to go. I don't think you have to make a move at that capacity. I think you're fine. Is Scary Terry worth a buy right now? I think so, yeah. I mean, if you're buying him at his ultimate floor of injury, I think that's very much so a viable kind of investment to make as for rest of season value as we proceed. I think that's a great idea there, Xavier. All right, let's see here. Chase Brown or Stevenson? I'd rather have Chase Brown there, Matt. Donald Smith says, pick 2, Rico, White, Judkins. I'd rather play Rico and White, genuinely. Maddie says, in a full PPR, Darnold or Knicks? I'd rather have Knicks. It says, last week paid off, 2 quarterback league. Yeah, I mean, sorry, 2 QB league. Other quarterback is Dak. Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, if it's a 2 QB league and we're playing, I know Darnold played incredibly well last week, but I think Knicks is probably the guy that I roll alongside of Dak this week. But if you wanted to play, Darnold, I don't mind it. Wide receiver McCaffrey, a good option. In the event in which Debo is out, I think yes. Absolutely. I think Zach Ertz is probably the best option of the bunch going into this weekend's matchup against the Chicago Bears, though. If Debo doesn't play, would you rather play Sutton or Judkins? Well, here's the thing. Debo plays on Monday, so you're not going to know. You're going to have to make that decision as of right now, to which if I'm in your situation, in your shoes, I just play Judkins against the Steelers. Let's see here. Hit the like button. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you guys haven't done that yet already, if you could hit the like button, that would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Pickens and Etienne for Jacobs. No, I think I just keep what you have. Unless you're playing in a 6 to 8 team league in which you have studs across the board, I think Pickens and Etienne is the preferred rest of season. Awesome Republic says, how do I improve? It depends on what you have here. So you have May, Purdy, Bijan, Carter, Kendre. So you need running back depth. You have Adunze, Sutton, Coker, McLaurin, Dobbs, Kelsey, Mason, Taylor, Aubrey. I mean, the primary way in which you can quote-unquote improve is probably trying to make a move where, well, look, you don't have to make any crazy moves. Like, May Bijan Carter until Benson comes back. Adunze Sutton, Kelsey is a solid lineup. But there's just so much fat that could be cut off here. But I think these are relatively solid like investments. Like Amari DiMercato, I think needs to get off roster. I think I'm going and making an investment, picking up somebody else just to kind of like, maybe I go pick up Jaden Blue and hope for something to happen to Javonte. Like that's the kind of investment that I would theoretically rather have on my bench. McLaurin eventually coming back is going to be a viable option for you. Hopefully Coker's going to be solid. You have Dobbs. I don't think there's like a necessity to where you have to make a move. You could go try to buy low on a Derrick Henry, theoretically speaking, but in order to make a move of that caliber, you're going to probably have to give them Carter and Benson and something else on top of it, like Romeo Dobbs. And even then, you may not be able to get it. But I would probably look towards that. Adunze or Judkins, yeah, we'll take Adunze there in a full PPR. Kendrick Bourne or Keon Coleman, I'd rather play Kendrick Bourne there. Full PPR, Darnold or Knicks. Yeah, I will take Knicks there for sure. Oh, yeah, we already talked to Maddie about that. Scott says Jake Ferguson or Brian Thomas Jr. in the flex. I'd rather play Jake Ferguson there. Henry or Carter in a full PPR. I'd rather play Carter because of the receiving upside that he's able to get. And, of course, the game script that is implied. Ibuka and Montgomery for Henry and Terry. I'd rather have Ibuka. Going forward. Genuinely. It's just too much value there. Waddle or Sutton in the flex. Waddle. Jalen Waddle. Please and thank you. Dowdle or Bill at running back. I'd rather have Bill this week there. Christopher, thanks, man. Yeah. Says, I have all three, but can only start two. Dowdle, White, Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams and White are my suggestions there. Thank you. Ben says PPR. Lawrence, Fields, or Mac Jones. I have Fields number one. Yeah, Fields probably going to be my guy. Like, you could theoretically go with the alternatives, but Fields, Lawrence, Mac is probably the way I roll it. Good afternoon. Sit one. Rome, Drake, Adams, or Pickens? I don't like the idea of sitting any of these players. Like, genuinely, I want to start them all. If I had to sit one, Can I plead the fifth? Like, is that a viable option? No, if I had to sit one, I probably sit Rome Odunze or Devontae Adams. I'm not sure which are the two though, because Drake London, in my mind, with no Mooney, has to play. Pickens has to play every week. Rome Odunze versus Adams, both very much so touchdown dependent, both very much so getting decent opportunity share. I think Adams getting more targets. I think the game scripts can get out of their hands relatively quickly to where it's scary. I think Adams probably is the one that I bench. I play everybody else. All right, let's see here. Let me go ahead. Get to this question. We had Carlos Z sent in his question. Thank you very much, Carlos. I appreciate it. Yo, what's up, Andrew? I need 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs and a flex. Okay, beautiful. Since I have T-Mac, Debo, Quentin Johnston, Romeo Dobbs, K9, JCM, Carter, Hendo. Okay, so look, in terms of running backs that you're starting this week, I'm leaning towards JCM has to start. And then of the available, are you playing in a half or full PPR? I'm actually, it's a half PPR. Okay. So you're starting Genty already alongside of St. Brown. So Genty and JCM are my starting running backs. St. Brown and Tedero and McMillan are starting wide receivers. Considering Debo plays on Monday, and we are leaning towards the idea that he's probably not going to play, I would like to play Quentin Johnston there in the flex position in the event in which you have the opportunity to do so. In the event in which he is not active, then we would pivot to playing Carter or K9. It's a half PPR. I could probably go I'd probably go K9 there. So Genty, Bill, St. Brown, McMillan, Johnston, or Kenneth Walker, depending on the availability. That's probably the direction I go in. Carlos, thank you, man. I appreciate it. D Black sends in a question. Says, I'm 1-4. Should I start Pollard, Michael Carter as my RB2? Depends on format. If we're talking about a half PPR, I'll take Pollard. If we're talking about a full PPR, I will take Michael Carter there. It says also quarterback. Should I start Daniel Jones or Justin Fields? I think there is a lot of risk revolving around Justin Fields. I am more of I'm a risk taker typically. So I would probably roll Justin Fields tomorrow morning. But if you're like, hey, listen, Andrew, I just need to get a solid 16 points this week. I'm not trying to get cute with it. I'm just trying to get as many points as I possibly can because I know I'm going to have this matchup in the bag. If that's kind of the conversation that we're having in regards to the quarterback play, then you go for the potential of Daniel Jones there. But in the event, for example, you played against Scat right, on Thursday, and you are down a major amount of points, and you're like, okay, well, I need some sort of jump in my production, then you probably go Justin Fields. If it's me and I'm just blindly just saying, who do I prefer? I have Justin Fields projected for more points this week. My remaining team is Gibbs, Drake London, Ladd, Tedero McMillan, Tyler Warren, Vikings defense, and Matt Prater. Am I cooked? I don't think you're... Why would you be cooked, brother? This is a fucking great team. Gibbs, London, Ladd, McMillan, Tyler Warren, Vikings defense, I don't think is playing this week because they're on bye, so we got to swap that, brother. But otherwise, a pretty good-looking team here. Pretty good-looking team. All right, John sends in a question. Thank you, John. So would you do Waddle and Michael Carter for Judkins and Laporta? No, I probably wouldn't. It says I'm in a PPR. My wide receivers are CD, Rome, Tedero, McMillan, Waddle, Evans, and running backs are Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, Rico Dowdle, Carter, Tyler, okay, Jalen Warren. Okay, so here's my thought process on the matter, okay? So Rico Dowdle is a fleeting commodity. Michael Carter is a fleeting commodity. So effectively, in a couple weeks, you're going to have Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, and Tyler Warren. So in the event in which you move off Carter right now, you would have to start Kyron and Warren, which I have no issue with at all, alongside of Rico, which is fine. Bucky will eventually return. You'll be fine there. So losing Carter doesn't hurt. Now, what is the potential, which if you lose Waddle, you have CD, you have Rome, you have Tedero McMillan, you have Waddle, you have Evans. So even losing Waddle in this case, it doesn't hurt. So really, it's just a matter of like, because Michael Carter is a fleeting commodity, you get Judkins and Laporta. You're able to improve running back, give yourself more depth in the position, and then you have Laporta and Njoku rest of season, which becomes a pretty difficult situation as to who to start. I'm okay with the trade. I think it's a fair trade. I think losing Waddle in this full PPR capacity kind of sucks because I think once you have Bucky, Kyron back at a full capacity, like I'm not ever going to think, well, okay, here's my only question, John. This will pretty much determine the entire situation. How many wide receivers start in your league and how many flex start in your league? Is it a double wide receiver, one flex, or is it triple wide receiver, one, or double wide receiver, double flex? If it's anything, if it is just double wide receiver, one flex, I'm taking the deal. In the event in which it's not, and you could start 3 wide receivers and 1 flex, I'm just going to keep what you have. Thank you. Tomasi sends in a question. It says, full PPR, flex Sutton or Jennings? I would just play Sutton there. I think Jennings has a potential of having a big week here against Tampa Bay in the secondary with all the injuries that they have accumulated, but ultimately, I think Sutton is just kind of hard not to play every week. Even with the matchup of Quinton Mitchell last week, he dominated. Sauce Gardner's given up his fair share of points recently, so why not? Thank you. All right, what I wanted to go ahead and do really quickly is I wanted to share some of the overall plays that I made yesterday in regards to the Hidden Gems video. I don't know if you guys saw that. I know it was a late upload. Apologies on that. But again, yesterday was relatively busy in terms of trying to get all that information collected for the video. But what I wanted to go ahead and do is potentially share a couple of the plays that I made via Betr yesterday going into this weekend. So for those of you who are potentially interested and didn't see that yesterday, I can go ahead and share that in regards to this weekend. So let me go ahead and let's pull that together really quickly. We're going to change screens here just real quick. Hopefully everything is still here. Yeah, so the Hidden Gems graphic is still here. Your boy needs to go ahead and change that just really quickly. Thank you very much for the patience. Let me go ahead and pull this up on screen. I'll probably just get rid of all these graphics to which I can just have this on screen and then I can fill it with my display. Here we go. Okay. So in regards to this upcoming weekend and some of the plays that I really do like going into it. Okay. So some of the plays that we've already gone ahead and made consist of the following. So these are a couple of plays like Hunter Long, 1.5 receptions, BTJ over or more than 49.5 receiving yards. Troy Franklin, 2.5 receptions. Again, I talked about Troy Franklin in specific. I'm actually curious if his number is still there. Right now in the National Football League, he gets the most designed receptions per game on average, which is 2.0. He is right now number 1 amongst all wide receivers in the NFL in terms of screen receptions, receptions on a screen pass. So when you're getting such automatic guaranteed reception counts, the idea of 2.5 receptions when he's accomplished it in 4 of the last 5 games of the season, I understand that they've duplicated Cincinnati twice here. Do not regard that as a potential, don't look at that as like the gospel. Again, that they've kind of messed up that graphics. It's not a problem. But if I look at like Franklin's receptions over the course of the last 5 games, 4, 8, 2, 4, and 3. If you surpass it every single week and the number 2 cornerback of the secondary is injured, their slot receiving corner, Michael Carter, the second, is injured, Troy Franklin should be very easily able to surpass 2.5 receptions. That's probably my favorite play of those 3 within the upcoming weekend, okay? Now, in regards to some of the other plays that I've gone ahead and made this weekend, we lean towards the idea of this. Achane 3.5 receptions. Of course, Chase Brown 2.5 receptions. Again, I mentioned it yesterday, and I can go ahead and reiterate kind of the volume as to why I feel so confident regarding that. It's mainly because of the consistency of them being able to accomplish it on their own. Specifically, Devon Achane has accomplished it in 11 of the last 14 games in which he has had 4 or more receptions. In 2 of the 3 games in which he failed to accomplish that, they won those games. So because of a positive game script, they don't have to they don't have to throw the ball as much. And if they don't have to throw, they don't have to dump it off, which then provides less receiving opportunity. Otherwise, it's 79% success rate in regards to that potential. I like that this week, alongside of course, Chase Brown, who has accomplished it in 11 of his last 13 games. And of course, we know Joe Flacco is going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly with the pass rush getting after him from, Rashawn Gary, Michael Parsons, etc. So expect for Chase Brown to surpass his number as he's done it consistently in his career, and of course will continue to do so. And then the final play that I made yesterday in regards to some of the hidden gems players, and that episode, was Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft both going more on their receptions. The primary reason why I went in that direction was because, again, Tyler Warren specifically, when he takes on the Arizona Cardinals, who have given up the second most targets, third most receptions, and fifth most receiving yards to opposing tight ends, and they have allowed 5 receptions minimum in each of the last 4 contests to opposing tight ends. Tennessee, 8 catches, Seattle, 5, Carolina, 11, and New Orleans, 8. I'd assume Tyler Warren highly implicated, and of course Tucker Kraft, the same situation. I wonder if they changed Tucker Kraft's number. Here we go, let's see. I would like to get it at more receptions this weekend, if potentially possible, but I don't know if that's going to be... Yeah, look, they know he's going to get 2.5. Like, it's almost a guarantee this week, primarily because, again, Cincinnati has been torched on, against opposing tight ends. They're the number 1 matchup. They've allowed 7 receptions to Detroit tight ends last week, 8 to, Denver Broncos tight ends, 6 to Minnesota, and 10 to Cleveland. So 6 receptions minimum to opposing tight ends in the last 4 games. But despite the receiving yards counts, which looks like 101 and 2 touchdowns, 66, 61 and 2 touchdowns, and then 100 against Cleveland. So those are the plays that I like this weekend. Just going to go ahead and put those out there. Other than that, let's go back to answering some of these questions. I appreciate y'all. Again, I'll probably have a couple other plays for tomorrow morning ready to go. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, especially for tomorrow morning's game. I'll probably have a couple available there. Okay, so let's see here. We had a couple questions. Let me go ahead and throw up the YouTube chat once again. Sent in via Super. Thank you very much. We'll take Sutton there. CB says, Shakir or Franklin, and Tongs or Henry. I would rather play Hunter Henry. Again, the matchup against the New Orleans Saints is such an advantageous one. I have a very difficult time not rolling in that direction. I understand that he was relatively lackluster last week, but again, you have to take into account that they were playing against the Buffalo Bills, who have been an incredibly difficult matchup for tight ends to take on this season. But when you look at the fantasy points that tight ends have scored against New Orleans, specifically this most recent week, the New York Giants tight ends had 10 receptions, 85 yards and 2 touchdowns against them. The week prior, Kincaid scored a touchdown against them. We've seen Jake Tongs and Luke Farrell combined for 6 catches, 46 and a touchdown. McBride in week 1, and all the tight ends of the Arizona Cardinals combined for 8 catches and 74 yards. So as of right now, New Orleans is just too decent of a matchup for me to pass that up. Tongs, if he scores a touchdown, probably finishes in the top 12. But again, I'd rather just lean with the potential, which the yardage count, the receptions are going to be a little bit more stable, and he has just as much touchdown, if not more touchdown upside. As for Shakir and Franklin, considering the upcoming matchup, I'll just take Shakir between the 2 of them. Thank you. John says, so what's your ideal trade for a top 5 tight end like Kraft? Let me look at your team here, and then I can kind of get an idea. In the event in which you're going for Tucker Kraft, what's my ideal trade for a tight end like Kraft? If you were going to try to get Kraft, you would probably have to give them a piece that is scoring upwards of 11 to 12 fantasy points per game and a half PPR, primarily because you have to compensate for the value of the player. And because the tight end position is such a rare commodity in fantasy in terms of a consistent weekly contributing basis, it becomes that much more difficult to pay up for one. So let's say it's a full PPR format, okay? that you're referring to. Let me see. Did you ever mention your scoring format? No. But let's say it is a full PPR, okay? As of right now in a full PPR scoring format, the number one tight end in terms of points per game is Darren Waller, but Tucker Kraft is averaging 12.75. He's the number 6 in terms of points per game thus far this season. So in the event in which you were trying to trade for a Kraft, you would have to probably give a wide receiver or running back. Actually, I would never give a running back for Kraft. I'd rather just hit the waivers. You'd have to give up a wide receiver that's probably averaging 14 points per game, genuinely. To which that kind of a value player is like Zay Flowers, Jalen. No, I wouldn't give Jalen Waddle for that. You probably have to give like a Romeo Dobbs. No, I don't think they would take that. Diggs would probably be like what you would have to give, genuinely, which sucks. Marvin Harrison's probably what you would have to give. Chris Olave is probably what you would have to give. Those are the kind of players that you would have to give in order to get one. Now, in the case of your situation, you have CD, Rome, Tet, Waddle. You could probably give Tet and see if you can get it. Maybe you have to wait a week, but if you wait a week and Tucker Kraft goes off, could be tough. If you wait a week and Ted Earl McMillan goes off, you can maybe trade him for something better. In this scenario, like I would try to offload. I would try to find an RB needy team potentially and send like maybe Jalen Warren there, because I think Jalen Warren's pretty solid in terms of running back contribution for fantasy points. If I'm not mistaken, if I look up Warren thus far this season when healthy, he's been averaging 14.8. Yeah, that's pretty much the range at which you would be shipping off to try to get a tight end like Kraft, who's only going to get better going forward. So Warren would probably be the guy. Otherwise, you would have to maybe get away with luckily trading away Rico and Carter if you're lucky. Otherwise, I mean, shoot, I would just wait because Njoku's enough for now. Because I don't want to trade away Waddle, nor do I want to trade away Tedero McMillan before continuous big weeks here are ahead. El Pollo says, with Jennings in, Bourne, Ridley, Shaheed, Franklin. Okay, for now, I'd go with Ridley out of the group. Thank you, El Pollo. Appreciate it. Cheeks sends it a question. Says, set my lineup in a full PPR. Sounds good, my man. Says Knicks, Chase Brown, Scat, McMillan, Pickens, Warren, Kamara, Dobbs, Otten, Isaiah Bond, Henderson, and Sterling Shep. Okay, so if we're starting a double flex league, so 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Obviously, your quarterback is Knicks because I don't see anybody else named a quarterback here. Chase Brown. Okay, so Scatterboo, I'm assuming already played. In the event in which he did, you have McMillan, Pickens, Warren at tight end, and you have Kamara, Dobbs as your flexes. Chase Brown starting. Am I playing Hendo over any of these available options? I'd consider Henderson over Kamara, but I still wouldn't do it. I think your lineup is set. This is it. I wouldn't play anybody else. You're fine there. Thank you. Steve says in a half PPR, DJ Moore, Ridley, Sterling, or Shakir. Ridley would be number 1. Shakir would be 2. And DJ Moore would be 3. And Sterling Shepard would be 4. Thank you. Devon sends it a question. Or Devin. Says Tez Johnson. Tez Johnson? Am I losing my mind, guys? Hold up. Okay, I see who Tez Johnson is. 4 catches, 4, and what is it, 59 yards last week? No, I'm not playing Tez Johnson. I'll take Torrey Horton there. Thank you. Okay, very good. Alrighty. Dilo, what's up, my man? You have any predictions for us this weekend? Anything of major, any bold predictions, Dilo? Anything. I'll take it. Whatever it ends up being. Played, scat played. Beautiful. Love it. Fantastic. Let's see here. Ochoa says, full PPR pick 2 for my second running back and my flex. We have these available options. Dowdle has to play, and I think so does Pollard. That's the way I go about it there, Ochoa. Thanks, man. Kraft is bye week free also? Yeah, definitely. Emiliano says, should I trade Zay Flowers for J.K. Dobbins and Haskins? I do have Vidal on my bench. I mean, just Zay Flowers for J.K. Dobbins 1-for-1 I think is equivalent. The fact that you get Haskins as well I think helps. So yeah, why not? If you can afford it via your wide receiver depth and you can get these 2 running backs to help bolster that position of yours, yeah. Stoney, what's up? Says tight end, Henry or Warren? I'd rather play Tyler Warren. Bourne or Franklin? I'd honestly rather just play Bourne at that. Yeah, I'll probably just rather play Bourne there. It's tough. It's going to be close. Johnny B says, started Rico in all my leagues last week. Going to do it again. Yeah, why not? Let it ride. Hollow Cards says, do I start Waddle or Sutton in the flex? Yeah, I'd play Waddle there. Easy E says, I picked up Burton, Pierce, and Downs for wide receiver depth in a standard league. That's great. I think Pierce is probably the best play of the bunch this week. Burton is a great stash. I think Downs, I had a dream last night that Josh Downs scored a touchdown. That's how much I think about fantasy football, guys. There's so much football I consume that it wasn't a dream. It's actually a nightmare. I went, oh my God, Josh Downs scored this week. I can't believe it. What was I thinking? Why didn't I suggest him? That's the kind of dreams I have, or nightmares I have, to which I go, oh my God. Oh no, McCaffrey, that's my life. Thank you very much. BTJ going for 2 tutties. All right, brother. Okay. All right. Listen, from your mouth to the fantasy god's ears, please and thank you. What's your price on Henry and or Terry? What do you mean by price? What does that mean? What's up? It says, is it worth keeping Benson through the injury? I mean, if you have an IR spot available, sure. It says, I have other players I could put in my IR. Nothing super juicy on the waivers, but I couldn't grab a handcuff. I'm 2 and 3. I mean, look, here's the thing. If you think that the player that you're effectively going to be able to pick up and leave on your bench is going to contribute to your roster in the next 4 to 5 weeks here, because that's the expectation of time in which Trey Benson's going to miss. And when I look at the upcoming schedule for the Cardinals here, let me just go ahead and let's just reference it. They have a bye week here. So he missed already 1 game. So in the event in which you have 1, 2, you would not get back Michael Carter until week 10. So if you're going to need another option on your team for bye weeks, for injuries ahead, and you don't think that you can afford to keep him as your IR because there could be other players that fit that position that are more valuable to you in the future, then sure. But outside of that, I would try to keep him, because if I can have Benson as my starting running back, or one of my 3 potential running backs in terms of RB or flex from weeks 11 through 17, the fantasy playoffs, their upcoming schedule is actually pretty nice to where I'd be willing to just roll him every week there at a top 36 capacity. So I'd like to keep him, but if you think that you can't, then sure, so be it. Packers signed another kicker just in case. If they signed another kicker, that means that McManus, who was questionable this week, is not playing. My nightmare is I accidentally drop players from my team. Yeah, that's actually worse than what I just described. How confident are we with Haskins, Andrew? Him or Bourne in a full PPR? I'd rather just play Bourne, genuinely. Yeah, Xavier says, who would you be willing to trade for them? I was thinking about offering Cook for both of them. Interesting. I'm not opposed to the idea under the assumption that you can afford to have Terry McLaurin miss more time. And then, of course, Derrick Henry, miss this week with a lesser performance and then miss next week with a bye week. So if you can afford to make that kind of a sacrifice for the next 2 weeks of play, then sure, why not? Easy says, no. Do I pick up Burton, Pierce, or Downs? Got it. If you're looking for depth, genuinely, I think it's Burton. That's the guy I would rather have rest of season. Any of y'all in a league where punt returners put up stupid numbers? No, I would never play in a league like that, brother. That's a league that I get out of if I can. It says fair $1,500 payout, though. Yeah, I mean, in that case, it's worth the thing. My only question is, who's the number 1 punt returner in the league? That's getting crazy. Like, if you get 10 points, or if you get 1 point per, let's see here, NFL punt return stat leaders. All right, so right now in the NFL, the number 1 returner is DK for the Tennessee Titans. Kevontae Turpin second, Miles Price, Luke McCaffrey, Kendre Miller, Rashawn Ali, Malik Washington. Malik Washington's actually pretty good because he's going to get return yardage, and he's actually getting a pretty good amount of it's punt return or kick return yards. That's kick return yards. Punt return is like Marvin Mims, if anything. Torrey Horton would be the best players. Parker Washington, Malik Washington again. But yeah, those would be like the monsters at that point. All right, let's see here. I have Michael Carter, and I have no confidence in starting him. I mean, look, here's the thing. With Kyler playing, I know they're going to get blown out, but he's going to get so many receptions and so much garbage time that I wouldn't be worried about it. Rico's revenge? Is that the... Listen, someone needs to... I mean, I'm hoping that Rico does get the quote-unquote revenge that he requires here, but man, you guys have to remember the starting center for the Panthers is on the IR. The starting right guard is on the IR. The starting right tackle is out this week. So we've got a lot of offensive linemen out for that team. And even though that was the case last week and they still performed incredibly well, it's because if you guys go back and you watch that game, the Dolphins don't know how to tackle. There is no practice for that team. Njoku or Tongs, I'll take Njoku this weekend. Thank you. Marvin Harrison, Diggs. I'll take Diggs this weekend if I had to pick one. No problem. Steelers or Packers defense? I mean, we could go either way. I think it's probably like right now I have Green Bay number 1. I have Steelers number 2. I think there's a pretty good likelihood that Joe Flacco does what Joe Flacco does and throws picks. I think we can all agree that that's probably going to be more likely of an outcome than anything. Would you start London or Debo? I would just start. Well, it depends, right? Like if Debo is active, right? The issue as it currently stands is that he is dealing with an injury. So like the question becomes, okay, what's the potential of his re-aggravation? To which if he does re-aggravate it, I'm not too keen on playing him when you have such an incredible opportunity to play London with no Mooney. So I would just outright play London and I wouldn't even question it at that point. Grant sends in a question. Grant, thank you. I appreciate it. It's going to be one of the final questions of this evening, and then we're going to close it out here. And then I will be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. I appreciate y'all. Okay, Grant says in a PPR, trade CD and Swift for Jonathan Taylor. That's a very intriguing potential move here. Says I could use the running back upgrade. My running backs are Brown, Swift, Spears. My wide receivers are Pittman, Evans, Quentin Johnston, Diggs, and Addison. Yeah, I mean, considering what you're getting in return is the number 1 running back in fantasy, I'd be willing to make that trade. I think DeAndre Swift and CD, technically speaking, in terms of fantasy point contributions to your team, is giving up a lot. But considering what you're getting in return is expected to be the RB1 of the season, I'm willing to make the move. I don't mind it. I mean, again, in a PPR, like CeeDee Lamb is, oh man, I think CeeDee Lamb's probably going to outscore Taylor. Like, to the point to where I got to think about this, actually, before I even give you the thumbs up here. Let's see here. If we go look at the potential with CeeDee Lamb, can accomplish full PPR. I'm so confident in that Cowboys offense to where like Lamb might finish rest of season when he returns as wide receiver 1. Like that's what I think is potentially possible in his return. That's why I've been saying for like weeks now we should be trading for him. We should be trading for him. Like the last 2 games he produced in a full PPR, 18 and 20 with no touchdowns. I think in terms of total points contributed, you're better off keeping what you have and trying to trade Evans, Diggs, Quentin Johnston for an upgrade elsewhere. Because I genuinely do think that, it is not a bad idea to get Taylor. But I think in terms of contribution of points, CD will be just as good as Taylor, and losing Swift in this situation hurts. To which, if you can't find another way to upgrade running back with the alternative options, you have a wide receiver in the form of, Johnston, Diggs, Addison, Evans. If they cannot conjure up enough of a running back in return, if you can't go and buy low right now on Derrick Henry, if that's not a possibility, then sure, maybe we take it. 2 for flinching. Says Bowers is out. I picked up Tongs. Waiver says Njoku. Yeah, pick him up. Thank you. That's it. That's the answer. You know the answer. That's what I would do. I'd pick up Njoku and I'd play him. Start this week, pick rest of season, have Stafford. Okay, so it says these are all the tight ends that are available. Also start this week and pick up for rest of season, have Stafford on the waivers. Knicks, Jones, Darnold, Jones, Dart, Love. Okay, so if we're looking for rest of season quarterback, what Jackson Dart just did, the rushing upside I think is a little bit too much to ignore. So I probably just leave Stafford to pick up Dart. I'd rather have Njoku here though at tight end for both right now and rest of the season. Andrew, you're awesome. Concern in the chat. All right, let's see here. Says in a full PPR, I need guidance. I goofed and I played with Theo Johnson this week. Rest of my lineup consists of Stafford, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Montgomery, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Henry, as in Hunter, Debo, Pinheiro. Bench is Michael Carter, Charbonnet, Drones, Njoku, Mason, Taylor, and JMO. and Pearsall. Who would you roll with? This is a no defense double flex format. Okay. So as it currently stands, if I'm setting your lineup, Stafford's your quarterback. Christian McCaffrey plays at running back. Your next best RB is David Montgomery, so I'm okay there. JSN starts. I would probably assume Debo's not going to play. Garrett Wilson has to play here because you don't really have any other wide receiver options. You already played Theo Johnson, so Henry, I don't know what he's going to be doing there. Unless this is not Hunter and this is Derrick Henry. If this is Derrick Henry, Debo as your two flexible options, I am going to assume that there's a likelihood in which Debo doesn't play, to which I probably play Michael Carter there over Debo this week. And that's probably the only... And then I would probably play Njoku over Derrick Henry. That's probably the adjustments I make there, Samaj. Thank you. All right, D-Switz is going to be the final question, then we're closing it out. I do appreciate y'all sending in the super chats, sending in all the love and support, clicking the like button, just joining us via viewership, whether you type or not. I greatly appreciate it. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning. The final question of this afternoon is D-Switz, who says, in a half PPR, I traded Jamar Chase for Quentin Johnston before the Joe Flacco trade. Did I make the mistake, or could this trade work out? I mean, if Quentin Johnston just continues to play as well as he has, then it won't hurt as much. But there's nothing to say that, again, it has to work out. Again, Jamar Chase, we all know, is the better of the two, but Quentin Johnston's opportunity share is enough of a strong point to where I do believe that you should be okay. It's going to hurt at some times because Jamar Chase is such an incredible receiver option, but fingers crossed that, of course, the offense without Hampton continues to go towards pass-heavy approach and that Quentin Johnston's healthy. If he is healthy and there's no concern, then I think they should both be very, I'd still give the edge to Jamar Chase, obviously, as I'm sure you would as well. That's why you're concerned about it. But as of the moment, Quentin Johnston hopefully can maintain as a top 12 option the rest of the season. Fingers crossed. He continues to get that kind of high workload share of opportunity. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. Again, if you want those rankings, check out Betr. Otherwise, you could check out the Patreon, all that information down in the description. I appreciate y'all. We're going to go ahead and we're going to queue up the one and only double helix. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other questions in the live chat in terms of supers that were sent in. Appreciate y'all. That's it. That's going to be it for me. Have a great rest of your wonderful Saturday. Enjoy college football. And until tomorrow morning, I'll see you guys. Peace.